Hi guys, this is John. Today I'm going to be continuing my tutorial on TDD with JavaScript and QUnit. Now last week, I added three tests. Mock should not be null, mock should return values, and mock should increment call count. Now pay close attention to test number 2 and test number 3. Let's look at the test code. If you notice something, these are tests that involve a little bit of interaction. Let's look at the second test. Mock should return values. Here's the code. I create a mock. I interact with the mock by setting a return value, and I check if that return value is actually returned. Now let's look at test number 3. Mock should increment call count. I create a mock, I interact with the mock by actually calling it, and I check if the call count has increased. Now, while these tests are important in that they check if the behavior after the interaction is correct, I'm still missing a few tests. Let's look at the create mock function. If you notice something, I have default values. Here's one, returns. It will return undefined if add returns is never called. Here's a second default value. Call count starts at 0. For proper test coverage, one needs to test every single possibility, including the default values. Let's go add those tests now. Let me copy this. Test mock should return undefined by default. Var mock is equal to create mock. Undefined is equal to mock. Now let's run the tests. It passes. Let's add the second check for the call count default value. Let me copy that template again. Test mock should start with 0 call count. Let me copy this. Now let's run the test. It passes. It's important to cover every single line of code because it makes the code more predictable. Predictable code is easy to debug and it's easy to fix. Let me demonstrate this predictability that's so important. Simply by reading the test, I can predict that create mock will create a function. I can predict that the function will return undefined. I can predict that the function will return anything I pass to the add returns function. I can predict that the mock function will have 0 as its initial call count, and I can predict that by calling the mock function, call count will increment. By having predictable code, you make it easier to work with. Okay, guys, I think that's all for this week. Next week, I'll be adding additional features to my test framework. I'll be adding the ability to return multiple values in multiple calls, and I'll be adding the ability to check if the arguments passed to it are the expected arguments. As always, if you have questions or comments, please leave it at the comments box. This is John, signing out.